Hey, Giant Builders! Here we are today, and our guest today is the owner of Engaged Coaching Group, and he focuses on helping male professionals in building themselves and finding the depression in them and what to do with that. This could be also helpful for
Building
women.
spirituality,
So let's find out
family,
more.
health, and business. This is the Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.
Hey, Giant Builders! I am so excited to be with you. I know that you've been seeing me on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I actually have not recorded anything since March. So I have missed you so much, and I've missed meeting wonderful people like Erin today. And I just want to tell you that you're important to me, and I appreciate you, and I enjoy sharing information with you. So I hope that you're enjoying the information. So, hey, Erin, how are you today?
Doing great. Thanks so much
Great.
for having me here.
Yeah. So, Giant Bears, this is Erin Soli. And Erin, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I founded a Engaged Coaching Group about 5, 6 years ago, and it was all sparked from me going through my own kind of mental wellness journey and wanting to be able to help primarily more men that are going through like high stress that it's impacting their ability to really bring out their true talents and abilities. They have these amazing gifts, and yet stress is getting in the way, life's getting in the way, and they're not able to bring those to the forefront of their career and their family life and professional life. So
Yes, stress. I can tell when my husband is under stress. He wears it on his face, it's like, oh, you okay? So we're all just really impacted with stress. So tell me, give me a little more details of how you got into this.
yeah, so I struggled with probably started in high school and it wasn't diagnosed, but I had these low periods in high school for, it'd be 2 weeks, it'd be a month, 2 to 4 weeks long, where I would just all of a sudden my confidence, my self-esteem would just drop. And then as I got into university, it was still there. And I finally started to see a therapist to get more clarity on what was going on for me. I was journaling a lot about these feelings I had and didn't really know what was going on. And so as I got older, I saw I got help and I'd feel good for a period of time. And I'd be diagnosed with depression, and okay, you need to go get some help and get support on that. And then 6 months later, I'd be feeling great, and I'd go back at my work. And I was primarily out of university. I took HR, but I struggled with finding work in HR because I had to have experience. They wanted someone with experience, and I'm right out of university. I don't have experience yet. So I ended up, sales positions were definitely accessible and easy to move into. So I pursued a variety of different sales positions where you have to, you got to be confident. You got to, you got to know how to, speak on the fly and all these skills that I was very self-conscious of in public speaking and these types of things. So I just started to I did a lot of things on my own. And then, during those periods of time when I was feeling low, I would either go get help, or sometimes I would just not and wonder, what is wrong with me? And really that it came to a head in 2012 when I was going through a separation of my first marriage. And there's this basement of this townhouse that we owned at the time that was very dark, and there wasn't a lot of light in the room. And we just moved into this place, and so there was boxes everywhere. I had my computer in the corner, and it smelled like cat pee because the cat was using the room as the litter box as opposed to the actual litter box. And here I am in the evenings down at my computer trying to figure out like what is wrong with me, because I'd done all this therapy, I'd done all this read all these personal help books, like self-help and personal growth books, and still I was struggling with my career. And now my relationship was ending, and it ultimately did lead to a divorce. But I was again on the computer searching what's wrong with me? Why can't I be confident? Like, why can't I be the man that everybody is telling me I'm supposed to be? And then one night when I was at the computer, I realized I got to stop asking this question. I got to ask a different question. And I had this epiphany that I was asking the wrong question to myself. And I realized I needed to start asking, what is this for? What is the lesson in this versus, attacking myself, blaming myself, like being really down on myself, because it's not getting me anywhere. I've been doing this, I was in my late 30s at the time, and I was, that was a pattern for me. I was just beating myself up, with my thoughts and my, and just things I was saying to myself, when really, there's got to be a lesson. I'd learned many lessons along the way. And so when I asked myself that question, that's where things started to change. I actually found a therapist that was right for me, and actually showed me a different way to look at depression. She actually highlighted that. She asked me, what is depression to you? And I said, well, it's like this dark cloud that hangs over me, and I feel like everything is impossible. Just getting up in the morning is difficult. Just simple tasks, doing dishes, trying to plan a meal. It just seems like absolutely overwhelming because everything just seems dark and dreary. She said, definitely, I could see how that could be what depression's like for you. But I'm going to give you another perspective. And she said, depression can also be looked as anger turned inward. And that, like, light bulbs went off for me when I heard that, because I actually realized that I had no relationship to anger. I stuffed it down, and I never knew how to express it. I always thought it was bad, and that if you're angry, people aren't going to like you. They're not going to want to talk to you anymore. Any friendship or relationship you have, if you get angry at somebody, it's over. That friendship's gone, and that's what I was believing. And so I avoided it like crazy. Sorry, my doorbell's just going off here.
That's okay.
And so, then I started to work on having a better relationship to anger and healthy ways of dealing with anger. And then that's where I took actually a personal development course that ended up giving me a counseling diploma, and I got a coaching certification. And as I was doing these courses, I realized I would love to be able to help other men that are going through similar things that I've gone through, because I was hearing from my fellow students that I was going through this course with, that men need more help with anger and with just how to deal with this, with stress, and have healthy coping strategies. And that's when I started my coaching practice, wrote a book, and just absolutely grateful that I've been able to really support these men that come to me and have been able to overcome addiction. They've been able to be confident in their relationship, and not have to be like a man like society says, but be who they want to be. Right. So it's been really great to be able to do that, and have a bigger mission to try to work with 1 million people by 2026 is kind of my bigger mission, is to really enrich and support 1 million people with their mental wellness. And so, like, being on a podcast like this, just it enables me to help me with my mission, just to be able to reach more people, and hopefully some of the things I share today can positively impact their life.
Well, I'm honored to be part of your goal.
Yeah.
So when your questions changed to what is this for, how did your answer change?
I got really curious, and even my journaling changed. I journaled a lot, and it was more around looking at there's a lesson here. Like, there's a bigger reason that this is happening. And I had my oldest son was like 2 at the time when I was going through the marriage breakdown, and I was really worried about how this was going to impact him. And I just started to shift my belief around that this is, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be there for him. And I looked at more of the positive side of things and the opportunity versus just staying in fear and worry, because worrying is kind of a common behavior in my family. And I really decided that it doesn't work for me anymore. Worrying has got me nowhere, and I need to look at the gifts that are there.
So when you find yourself going into like one of your dark places, is there something that you do to stop that from happening?
Yeah, part of it is being aware of it, and just saying, thanks for sharing. Like, it's almost like having a relationship with my ego and saying, hey, appreciate your feedback, but that's not helpful. It doesn't work for me anymore. And then also I journal about, if there's some upset or something challenging, and even just journaling, the upset, like if there's actually a process that I learned in the course I took where you can actually do journaling around anger and just write out the anger as it is, like how it's feeling, things you want to say, and you can even, know that you can just crumple up the piece of paper and throw it away so no one has to see what you're writing, but just get the anger out and then connect to the past from the perspective of, is this person reminding me of an event or a person in my past that actually isn't here, right? Because it's typically a learned behavior, reacting in a way because we've learned something from the past, and then it's a matter of recognizing, hey, hold on a second here, what's the truth in this situation? Because so and so, my parents or my brother or that neighbor that did this to me in the past, they're not actually in front of me, right? There's somebody else in front of me here, and I'm believing that this whole situation's happening again when it's not. Like, someone getting cut off in traffic could be actually at some point in someone's life they got cut off, they got interrupted, they got their voice was put down, and now they're like, hey, I'm going this way, why are you stopping me? And that can be an opportunity to say, hey, I'm not in that situation anymore. What's really going on? Maybe that person's just, they're having a bad day, and they have to get somewhere. Maybe there is somewhere they have to get to, but just try to look at it from a positive perspective and not take it personally. Because I did take things, when I was younger, quite personally and to heart, because I'm more of a feeling kind of guy. And I was getting feedback that I shouldn't be that way, but I want to embrace that. I want to step into that because that's who I am.
So is there something that somebody around you could have done to help you when one of these clouds get over you? So I'm looking at, okay, as a wife, is there something that if I see a cloud around my husband, is there something that I could do to help him?
Yeah, I think the big thing is to not put down the behavior, and just to always be there and saying, hey, it looks like you may be struggling. Do you need any help right now? Right. And allow your partner or whoever in your life to actually say yes, they want help. Because if that's the part of the thing that can happen, is we tend to overfunction, and we're like, oh, this person's struggling, I need to be there, I need to be right beside them in this struggle. And that actually is not necessarily what they want. You have to ask them what they need, and if they ask for that, and you're open to providing that support, then great. But if it's a matter of, is there anything you need help with right now? And if they say no, you can just say, well, if there's anything you ever need help with what you're going through, I'm here. Right. And just, it's the most important thing is to know that somebody is there to help you when you're in this dark place, versus having somebody trying to fix you or solve the problem with the way that they did it, when that may not necessarily work.
Yeah. And I think too, it makes a difference too between the relationship, like between a man and a woman, because you guys have like your own conversation. You have your own talk,
Yeah.
I don't understand it. So you guys have your own way of, like, for example, if my husband got irritated and my oldest son was around, he would go like, oh, you gonna cry, like that, and it would snap my husband right out, But
Yeah.
I know that if I said something like that, he'd be like, would you just shut up, or something like that. So
Yeah.
I think it also depends on the relationship or the connection between the people.
It can. And what I found interesting, I started to see a pattern for me, is I actually, and maybe it's because I was closer to my mom than my dad, that I resonated more from the approach that women would take with me. So a lot of the counselors and therapists and coaches that I've had have been women, and even bosses that I've had, or business partners. If they were a male, there would ultimately be some friction that would eventually show up, and part of it was my belief around how this, how I'm supposed to operate, and also their belief in how men are supposed to talk to each other and this type of thing. So It can definitely be, men talking to men and women talking to women can be different, but it also can be the person's preference of what approach. Because I had a high school basketball coach that his approach was just to yell and scream at us if we made a mistake every time, and that maybe helped everybody else, but it just shut me down. It did not work. But then we'd have an assistant coach that if he was coaching us, because the head coach was away, he was a male, but he was just a lot more positive and just encouraging that if I made a mistake, it was more like, okay, that didn't work. What can you do next time? You got this, right? And I played like 100% better because of the care that was taken. So some people are motivated differently. And so it could be, the communication is different, but also understanding what works for that person is important to know. Yeah.
So tell me about your book.
Yeah. So again, journaling all these years, and in this personal growth program I was in, these light bulbs started going out. How can I help people with what I've been doing? And I recognized that there's these lessons that I was learning through my journal entries. And a lot of the journal entries I did, I'd be in kind of a dark or a stressful place. Even in an evening, I would write a bit, and I'd actually in that journal entry come on the other side and realize, hang on a second, this isn't what I was thinking, right? It could actually, there'd be a bit of healing there in just writing that evening, that it come out of it. And so I had shared, I actually started to write 20 minutes a day. I wrote down out of my journals. I just started putting them into a document, and then I shared it with like a hybrid publisher that helps you with being a self-publisher, and just said, what do you think of this? Is this opportunity? And there's tons of lessons in here. So what it is it's 52 lessons, and it's essentially journaling lessons that individuals can do, and also teams or groups can do. I've set it up where it can be both. So if you have a group of people that you want to go through it with, or if you have because I was in a lot of sales teams, and recognizing that there's a lot of things like mindset and confidence and things that if everybody in the team were aware of everybody's their strengths, but also where they were struggling, if everybody kind of had conversation about that every week, there could be benefits there. So the book's called Engage, Connect, Grow. So it's really three sections. The first section is engage, which I look at as it's like awareness, or you're engaging the engine inside of you that you're now going to change. You're now committed to changing, and you're going to bring more awareness and curiosity to the situation you're in. Connections, first off, is about connecting with you and who you want to be and who you are. But then being able to connect with others, and being able to, now that you know who you are, how do you want to step into work relationships, partnerships, marriage relationships, relationship with your kids? Who do you want to be in those relationships? And then the growth side is actually taking action. And how are you going to, maintain growth for the long term? Because as a lot of people may have experienced, come January, you want to get back into shape, and you sign up for a gym membership, and 30 days later, you're not going to the gym anymore, right? You've decided this is not going to work. So it's around what are the baby steps you can do if you have these big goals that you want to accomplish, you want to help other people, you want to, really make a difference in your business. What are some simple steps that you can do? And part of that growth is actually having a support network, and having somebody that you go to, or a group that you go to that's there to help support you. What I imagine similar to what you're doing here is to be able to have a place where people can come and connect and learn from each other. And that growth is not to do it by yourself. Right?
Oh yeah, I can't do it by myself.
Yeah, right.
So tell me what your first meeting looked like.
First meeting with a client?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's really just understanding where they're at. What's, getting an idea of, what are they experiencing right now? Right. And and where do they want to get to? So where are you at today? Where would you love, if you had a magic wand and you could, wave it right now, what would you change? What would your circumstances, how would it be different? And really get them to look at the future, where they want to get to. And that creates kind of a bit of a gap of, okay, here you are now, and here's where you want to get to. And then even just even in that initial conversation is helping them find one thing that they could do, whether they decide to work with me or not. What's one thing that you could do in the next 7 days that would get you closer to that future state that you want to be in? And then from there, just determining if working with someone like myself makes sense. I do have my book, as we talked about. I also have an online course. So some people come to me and they're ready to use the book on their own, and that's great. Or they'll want to use the course is essentially videos of me going through the lessons with people. It's a self-study course, so that's another option. Or if they want to work one-on-one, so I give them a variety of options on what makes sense for them.
So all of your meetings are one-on-one, or they're group coaching as well?
There is group coaching that's available as well. Yeah, because more and more I'm recognizing, especially with the men I'm working with, when we've come together as a group, like there's just everybody's learning from each other's experiences, and the transformation, if you will, can happen a lot more than it would if you're just working on doing things on your own. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So a lot of our viewers are entrepreneurs or thinking of becoming an entrepreneur. What kind of advice would you give to them? Because there's a lot of fear in running a business or putting a business together. What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Myself being a business owner, I can can relate to that as well. I think, and this may not feel good, and it may feel kind of counterintuitive, but I would recommend to just feel that fear. Really, just allow it to be present in your body. Feel where it is in your body, and breathe into it, and notice if there's any certain thoughts that are coming up, any certain sensations, anything that any imagery, like maybe a story is showing up that is your business isn't going to work, or people are not going to agree with the offer that you have, or in that. And so just really get curious about that feeling of fear, and question, is this actually true? Like, these thoughts I'm having about it, is this happening right now? Am I actually failing right now? Or, and question it, and start to recognize that once you start feeling that fear, what's on the other side of it? Because usually once these feelings show up, they don't last very long. That fear may be just there for a minute, and then you're back to, oh yeah, hey, I got this, and remember those clients and those people that have believing in what you're doing, and remember your mission and your vision you have for it. But that fear can actually feed you and remind you that it's not actually real. That it's just in your head. It's in your body. It's in your head. It's a reaction to what you think or thinking may happen, but it's not actually happening. And go back to the reason why you're in business, the people you want to serve, and then breathe into that, and get that feeling, like intensify that feeling, so that is the feeling that when fear shows up, your body is actually going to, if you do that enough times, it'll automatically start to switch from that fear to the, hang on a second here, this is like, that excitement, that joy, that passion, that fire inside of you will just, overtake it.
Mm-hmm. That's great. All right. Any closing thoughts?
I just like to thank you for having me, and just for everybody listening, just know that you have the the skills and abilities to help those that you're serving in your businesses. There's a quote by the famous psychologist Carl Jung, who says, "Those who look outside dream, but those who look inside awaken." So remember that if you go inside and you do your own work, and you actually get curious about what's going on inside of you, it's actually going to open things up for you. It's gonna awaken things, and your passions, your gifts are going to be able to even come out more than they have, just from what you've been doing today.
That was great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Aaron. I really appreciate your time and just sharing the knowledge you have, and kudos to you on the direction of your path, and just recognizing it and making those changes.
Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
All right, Giant Builders, We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.